Welcome to the July SOF Community Pod. Today's theme is Radiant, and as ever, I'm going to start with a poem, and then we're going to have a couple of minutes of silence. So today's poem comes from a really old book I've got called The Nation's Favourite Poems, and it's called Leisure by William Henry Davies. What is this life if, full of care, we have no time to stand and stare, no time to stand beneath the boughs and stare as long as sheep or cows, no time to see when woods we pass, where squirrels hide their nuts in grass, no time to see in broad daylight streams full of stars like skies at night, no time to turn at beauty's glance and watch her feet, how they dance. No time to wait till her mouth can enrich that smile her eyes began. A poor life this if, full of care, we have no time to stand and stare. So take your time now, look out a window, close your eyes. It's going to take 2 minutes to just arrive and settle. Take a couple of deep breaths to come back into the room. A little stretch and a wiggle. Good to see so many of you. Today we're going to talk about rest and recharge. And I don't know about you, but I was coming into July thinking, I always get this sensation that, it's the summer months, it's the yang energy, and I always think I should be super productive. And I need to be on the go, I need to be doing, I need to be creating, I need to be making. But I don't know about you, but I'm feeling far from radiant, which is the word of the month, and feel sometimes quietly knackered. And I was just wondering, out a show of hands, if anyone else is in that space of similar, different. Yeah, there's some nodding around the room, feeling a bit knackeredness, or maybe you're at the opposite end. It's okay. That's just my interpretation of the energy right now. And I don't know, does anyone else think they need to be super productive in the summer? Or is that just a me thing? And feel free to put your voice in the room, because I'm just really curious, because I always have this sense that I should be super productive. We've got longer hours, longer days.
I think summer's the time when so many people, particularly in July and August, are thinking about holidays and vacations, that for me, it's a time to reflect and not expect too much of myself and enjoy myself.
Well, and so I have that as the next predicament, Margaret, that I was going to mention, is because also you then get this holiday-esque vibe, and I don't have kids, so I don't feel the need to have a holiday in July and August, and also why we don't want to pay those prices.
I call it a staycation though, you see. So I think just enjoying the time at home is quite nice.
But then I get rubbish at doing that, you see.
Okay.
I think we're going to talk about this, like what is rest, what is recharge, and then I get caught up with, oh, maybe because it is so quiet, because I don't know about many of you, but clients do go quieter. I'm not saying they switch off altogether, but quieter in end of July, August in the Northern Hemisphere. And then I was like, oh, I can work on the business versus in the business. And then like, but then when am I going to have holidays? So then, I don't know, I sort of go around in circles. And then by the time I get here, I'm like, oh yeah, but I forgot to book any holiday in and take some off in June. And then already the busyness of September and August has started to kick in with clients booking in time then. So then I'm like, oh, I'm scuppered. So do I wait till November? So it all becomes, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? I just put myself into a corner basically, which is no good. And I was just curious whether others experience same or different to that.
I'm listening to you, and I feel very much like you started that statement with how you feel to be productive, but you're already tired. So I'm going to just say, don't wait till November and book a week off, like in the next couple of weeks. And don't go anywhere. Stay somewhere or go somewhere local that's quiet, that's not got any kids going. But yeah, I feel I'm always feeling like super productive or needing to be super productive. And I'm quite, 6-7 months into freelancing. So I'm in charge of my own time now. So I'm a little bit trying to manage not getting too tired, too busy, the justifying the what I call free time, where I'm working for the business, not in the business, and it's still valuable, and balancing all of that stuff. So yeah, I'm pretty damn tired. But I also feel like the pressure I'm feeling this week, or since the day started shortening again, my energy feels like that because I'm racing the time and I don't want to miss out those longer days before it gets dark again.
Oh gosh, you really thought
it's an unconscious thing. Yeah.
Wow. So it's interesting, isn't it? We all have anyone else I sort of some
yeah voices. Hello.
Hey Tim.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I recognized quite early when I started doing my own thing is that whole, you've got to, if you haven't got boundaries in, then it's really, really easy to just be kind of working the whole time.
Yeah.
And I remember having a conversation with my wife where it was, I can't remember, I was some point in the evening, and she's like, are you working? And I was like, well, I'm not working. And I think the whole thing of like rest, there's a period of, obviously there's the idea of holiday and taking that chunk. I think I've got better at not getting to the point where I'm really crispy and desperately need 2 weeks off, by just going, I am going to have some time when I'm actually not working. And that includes not listening to business podcasts, not reading business books, reading some fiction, watching some rubbish telly, and doing things that are actually for me or for us as a family, and not even slightly professional. Because then I think you don't get to that point where you're just feeling a bit crispy around the edges.
I love that, crispy around the edges. Thank you, Tim. Nicole, hey.
Hey, so I it's really interesting, your observation about July and August being quieter. So I've got the situation at the moment that I've got lots of clients who they all want everything before the summer holidays. So, things are kind of ramping up. But what's then happening is I know myself that I'll get to August and feel guilty because I'm not working as hard as I was in July. And then suddenly it's like, that becomes the new normal. So it's really kind of reminding myself that that's not normal, and you need to kind of step back down a bit. And I think that's a real challenge as well, is if you're racing, do you continue racing more and more and more? So that's a real challenge to think about.
Yeah, it all happens. So I was doing some reading about rest, and there's a really good lady called, I can't find her name, Sandra Dalton Smith, and she did a TED talk about the 7 types of rest. So we're going to just talk about the 7 different types of rest. And some of you may have come across this. And if you have, no bad thing to remind ourselves about it. And if you haven't, dial your ears in, team. So my first question to all of you is, hands up or in the chat box, just tell us, have you ever tried to fix your lack of energy by increasing your sleep? Has anyone gone, God, I've got no energy, or I'm tired, oh, I need more sleep? Anyone had that, even that thought go through their head? It's a sort of a common one to do. And so Sandra Dalton Smith did some research, and she said, well, yeah, that is one way that you can re-energize yourself and help yourself, but it's a misconception that we are rested if we've had enough sleep. Because if you notice, sometimes you have 8-9 hours sleep, which, as I'm getting older, I recognize is a luxury. Doesn't mean to say I feel any refresher. That's such bad English. I don't feel necessarily revitalized or fresher. And therefore, there are some more sleeps, some more types of rest that we can actually look at. However, the other thing to notice is culturally and societally, we are really good at rewarding people for productivity, for being busy. There was a time you'd get the nod if you were in an office that you've worked late or you got in early. It became a bit of a badge of, oh yeah, I worked at 8 last night, or I was at my desk at 7 eating breakfast. You know, that kind of behavior unconsciously was rewarded. And it's even just listening to you all talk just then, having to be really what's the word, strict with ourselves. You know, don't listen to a podcast that's business orientated, put the book down. No, actually create some space that is outside of business. It still sort of follows us, even though, as Bryony said, you know, we are masters of our own time now and our own destiny as freelancers, yet we've still got those cultural traits, those behavioral traits from when we were in the corporate space. Interestingly, in July 2021, between July and September 2021, a Google search of "why am I tired all the time" was at an all-time high. Someone tracks these metrics. And if you think about where were we as a nation in 2021, or as a globe, actually, we were in year 2 of pandemic. People were getting pandemic fatigue. You know, 1 minute you're in lockdown, next minute you're out of lockdown. Your nervous systems were literally sort of on fire. What can I do? What can't I do? If you're trying to have a holiday, gosh, I've got to go through all those tests. Will I pass? Will I pass? And I've spent thousands of pounds on a holiday for the family. So no wonder people were tired. The other question I have for you, we're going to do a poll. I've pulled out the polls. I haven't done one for ages. The next question I have for you on a poll is, how comfortable are you with the concept of taking rest? So just answer question 1. Don't go to question 2 yet. So how comfortable are you with rest? So bring it on. I love a nana nap. And if that doesn't make sense to you, that is, I like an afternoon nap and I can put my feet up and all is good. Sort of okay with it, you know, middle of the road. And then the guilt is high when I'm not doing something. So that's the other extreme. So where would you put yourself? You love rest. You can just take it. You can dial down. Sort of okay.
And just to reiterate, don't go to question 2 yet, people.
You can't do question 2 because you don't know what it is.
They have.
I know, I can see. Stop it. Honestly, you lot don't listen to the distractions, do you? You voted now. You're set. That's it. Don't do question 2, team. So how are we doing on question 1? I can only see 6 people have answered.
It's not letting me submit without doing both.
Exactly.
Ah, that's our error.
On me, not letting me.
Error. There you go. Right, do question 2. It won't make any sense.
Okay.
And maybe we'll reset the poll. Do question 2. It won't make any sense. Well, it might do for some of you, but you need to know the definitions. Oh, Fiona, that's interesting. My husband's persistent tiredness turned out to be an indicator of autism for him.
Yeah, he's 56 and he just got diagnosed.
And all of a sudden, a whole bunch of stuff we've gone, oh, so that's why you're like that.
It all
Okay.
clicks in.
Yeah.
Shall I end the poll so I can see it? Has everyone voted? 2 people. Or maybe that might be you and I, Kat.
Oh yeah, that's
No.
probably us.
Yeah.
Oh no, we've got 28. Must be one more then.
Everyone's looking around going, who is it? Who is it?
Close it. Might be us.
Yeah. We'll show the results. Just look at the first one. That's interesting. I didn't realize you have to do separate questions in separate polls. Can you see the answers? So we're a bit average, people. We're going to go, like, we couldn't be more sort of equal. So bring it on. I love a nana nap. 10 of you love that. Sort of okay. 39%, 40% of you are sort of sitting in the middle, whereas 25% of you are saying the guilt is high when I'm not doing something. Interesting, huh? And that's a real thing. So when we are encouraged to rest, our brain suddenly goes, shouldn't you be doing something? And you get the inner chat and your psyche kicks off, and even the body's known to fight back, because we're sort of designed to be productive, but we're also designed to rest. Otherwise you can't sort of do what you want to do. But I think, again, it's back to that social conditioning of what has happened in the past, in terms of being rewarded for being busy. So Sandra Dalton Smith talked about these 7 types of rest, and I'm just going to have a Sunday afternoon nana nap. I'm just going to name what the different ones are, just so then we'll talk about each one. So we have physical, mental. Let me go to my notes. Sensory, creative. I'm just going to ask you not to write for the moment, team, so otherwise you're not going to be able to see them all in one list. Emotional, social, and spiritual. So my first question is, for all of you, just looking down that list: physical, mental, sensory, creative, emotional, social, and spiritual. Any surprises there in terms of what you were thinking?
Sensory seems like an interesting one. I'm keen to.
Yeah,
about
I thought that as well, Matt, but then I'll give you the definition. So physical there's 2 different types of physical rest. There's passive, so that's napping and sleeping, the one that we all know. There's restorative, and that would be like yoga, stretching, massage. And I was like, oh yeah, that resonates. Mental rest is that rest from the brain, forever coming up with the to-do lists, as you're about to go to sleep, suddenly thinking, oh. Now sometimes that's creative as well for some of you, as you're dropping off into dreamland, but sometimes you might find yourself like lying there thinking about things, or you get that wake up in the middle of the night. Another sign that mental rest may be required, and ladies, just go with it for the moment, don't give me the menopause chat, but mental fog, forgetfulness, befuddlement, I quite like that word, just not recalling things as easily. I also appreciate there's an age thing related here as the hormones change, as we now well know. So there's something about the mental thing, being able to switch off. Even if you have had a good night's sleep, you still wake up tired. You might find you want coffee to start the day, and then you need a sugar hit in the afternoon to keep yourself going and stay stimulated. That can be an indicator that we need some mental rest. Then we move to sensory, Matt. And in terms of sensory, that is very much about like disconnecting from this. So for us who now live in a virtual world, which many of us are doing, are we giving our senses time off? Are we stepping away from computer screens, phone screens, Zoom, bright lights, even music? So some people might have the radio on for company in the background all the time. That's creating sensory disturbance, I guess. general noise. So can we switch off from that in a really proactive, intentional way? Creative rest. I thought this one was quite interesting. So creative rest is for those who really are in that space of problem solving, creative from the arts perspective. And sometimes they get so overstimulated because of everything that's going on around them, they can't produce. And one of the indicators, I am just looking at my desk, and I'd say I'm creative, not like a cat. So Cat for me is massively creative when it comes to art and her ideas. I get creative in terms of I am the idea person in my business, and I go, how about this? How about that? And they're like, geez, but my desk is a complete mess. So in the articles I was reading, it was like, how can you be creative if you're surrounded by chaos? So one of their suggestions was time outside into nature, like absolute quietness, and giving yourself that space to breathe and be. I thought that was quite interesting. Emotional rest. I think we all recognize that. I'm guessing quite a few of us are in this trade because we love helping other people. And we may spend our time giving our energy to others to help them, whether that's in business, and potentially that leaks into personal life as well. You might be the go-to person in your friendship group. Oh, I can talk to Stuart, he'll help me work out this problem. And you get text messages or phone calls. So you might be giving yourself to a lot of people. Also, and this is a massive generalization, because we like helping people, we don't have a clear no button that we can press. We have a good yes button. Yes, I'll help you. Oh, and then that's self-serving, so it makes you feel good. So the emotional rest is being able to detach yourself from others. Maybe detach yourself as well internally sometimes from your own emotions, and like give yourself that space to breathe. Be less people pleasing. So how do you find that space to express your authentic self? Social rest, that can be disconnecting from relationships that don't serve us, which I think is really interesting. Again, same and different to emotional, but I think it's more the externalized version of that. And then spiritual rest, this was another new one to me. So this is about connecting beyond the mental, physical, and emotional, and having that deep sense of belonging, love, acceptance, and purpose. Okay. And examples of that can be engaging in something that's greater than yourself. So that might be charity. That might be, you know, working in a group. Another thing may be meditation and prayer. Another thing they said for spiritual rest was being part of a community. And I noticed that, I guess in some instances here, in Never Done Before, in other communities that I'm part of, there's definitely a sense of being there for others. So it's quite interesting. Now, I thought we could have a little conversation today in breakout rooms around where we think we have deficit of one of those rests. Hence what the second poll was. So the rest, what we're going to do is Kat's going to work her magic. Is it going to work, Kat, do you think, that we can use the breakout rooms? Kat also showed me that if you do a poll, oh look, you can do it again. Make up an answer for the first answer and then choose the answer you want. Like, where do you want to, which of those would you say you have a deficit in? Bryony, thanks for sharing that. That is interesting. Okay, the votes are coming in. Oh, mental is taking the lead by a strong. No, I can't think of the word. Anyone else? Got 25 out of 32. 26. few more. I think we've got at least 3 more. 2 more. You can do it. Pressing the buttons. If you can't, just drop the answers into the chat box. So what Kat pointed out to me was, you can now do a poll and then create breakout rooms, we think, based on your answers. So that is what we're going to do. So when Kat works her magic, so you can see the results. Mental was the biggest one, highest one for us. And then a bit of creative, bit of emotional. One person in social, couple in spiritual, a couple of people in physical and sensory. So the question is going to be this, team. You're going to go into breakout rooms in a moment. There'll be max of 4 people per room. The question is, maybe have a conversation like, how does that show up for you? And then the second question is, what's one thing you could start to do differently? What's the one thing you could do differently? Now, we've only got one person who's in the social. So we'll drop that in that room and then I'll come in and see that individual because I don't know who it is and see if they want to go to another room.
I can tell you who it is.
Yeah,
Tim. Tim, would you like to go to a different room?
I'll go to social if you want.
Oh, okay. Rich will go to social. Where are you now, Rich?
Mental.
Okay, thank you.
Play is mental.
Mental, innit? So Kat's gonna have a play with the breakout rooms. We're gonna take.
Ready?
Yeah, cool. We'll just take
How long?
Maximum 10 minutes, and then we're gonna come back and have a chat. Any questions before you pop off? Beautiful. Enjoy your conversations, team.
Oh, I think we're back in the mix.
Welcome back, team. How are you? That sort of magic of Zoom as it grabs you from one meeting room and returns you to another. That sort of time travel that occurs. I was just saying to Kat, I took the REST quiz last night, and we've got the links for you. So we've got the links for the TED article, the Guardian article, and the quiz. And I have like really good adequate rest. Oh, there she goes. Can I just say, please don't start the quiz. It's really long. Hold yourselves back, you can do this. I can feel fingers twitching. It takes ages, so Phil, don't do it. So my scores, my lowest as in adequate rest was social, sensory, then mental, emotional and spiritual all came up with I'm experiencing rest and I'm good. Unsurprisingly, if you know me, I'm very sporty, and it was my physical that was at 27 out of a possible 35, and they were saying you are feeling the effects of lack of rest. And if you were with us in June at the June pod, I was just about to go and do a half Ironman. So yeah, I guess that sort of gives you an indicator, which I completed, by the way, and it was fine, and I quite enjoyed it, but that's for another conversation. So we are going to, what are we going to do? A quick fire round the rooms, not every single room, around the rests, and just to get a check-in. So actually we're going to go back to front based on my list that I've got in front of me. So who was in the social room? Who had social?
Me and Tim.
Oh, cool. Headline, what did you discuss? Just a couple of sentences, please.
I've popped it into the chat that there's a rhythm.
Oh, okay.
There's a rhythm to restoration, and yeah, both of us as extroverts, it's like connecting with people, but maybe don't prioritize it because it's happening all the time. But the value of a long-term relationship is just restorative in the way that nothing else is.
Yes, it is, Mr. V. So Rich and I have known each other since 2005, 2006. So we've got an established friendship, which is awesome. I like that. A rhythm to restoration. So there's something about intentionality there. Who had sensory? What did you?
That was Fiona and me.
Oh, wonderful.
Hello. So we were really talking about how we could get out of the habit of being on our phones too much. So we both made an agreement about what we were going to do differently.
And what I know with me, I need to get a better alarm clock, because the only reason I have
Yes.
my phone in my room now is for an alarm. And actually, I'm automatically waking up at 6 or at 4:30 some days. So do I actually need an alarm clock? So therefore, do I need my phone in the room? It's just on those days where, you know, you've got a train to catch that I just a little bit of fear. Thank you, Lizzie. Good to see you. Mental. Okay, that was a lot of you. I think we had 4 rooms. 3 rooms, Kat? 3 rooms. So let's have
4 rooms. Shall I just pick one?
Well, who wants to talk about mental? I need a Google Nest then, Nick. If I
don't mind talking about it.
Mr. Manda, good to see you from the lakes. How
Good,
how is
thank
it there
you.
today?
Overcast. That's not surprising, is it? I was in a room with Nick and Bryony. We had a bit of a discussion around, actually, I mean, that mental thing is different for everybody. And actually, we had a conversation about how there was a weird link for us about kind of mental tiredness and creativity tiredness, and whether the rest of those is the same. We also realized that inner voices, be it being introverted or ADHD or other things, stop that mental rest. And sometimes it might be it's an avoidance of something going on, which allows mental rest not to happen. So finding ways for mental rest, some of the steps we discussed were everything from finding space sat in a park, to at least fessing up to the people around you at the time that you're stepping away from this situation for the sake of mental rest. So that was the nutshell of our conversation.
I love this. I like the acknowledgement that potentially the inner chat is avoidance of the other thing that you need to be looking at.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's often why, let's be honest, we work with coaches and supervisors and mentors, because they can cut to the chase and go, is that really the situation, or is that really the answer, or is that the thing? What's the thing below the thing below the thing?
That's exactly where that came from, Kirsty. I was sharing with Stuart and Bryony about my coach having helped me to get to that yesterday. All about the avoiding all my avoidance of the mess. I'm looking around me at mess and all of that, because that's why I have a perfect tidy space in my image. All the avoidance is me avoiding dealing with all the rejection I've received as a child and as an adult. And so, yeah.
Stick fingers in your ears and go la 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 la, Nick.
But unfortunately, it's still all in there, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. Let's move on to emotional. Who had emotional? I like this with Kat, because she just looks back and goes, well, I can tell you.
Shall we call up Sharon?
Yeah. Hello, Sharon. Sharon's like, no.
I think Alison was about to speak, which is why I didn't jump in. But
we'll wait to go.
We had a really open discussion, because emotion is obviously that. It's just emotional. It's very personal, as anything is here. But what we said is that we're not invincible, and that's perhaps part of the drive. We think that we can cope with all this. We think we're superhuman, and it comes. You can hear the rumbles, and then suddenly it's a tidal wave, and we need to. Or we need to recognize that and actually listen to our emotions in the same way that we would be much more noticeable of somebody else's. Take note of them. Alison had a great idea about potentially, keeping a track of the journey of emotions, not in an onerous way, and then putting the boundaries around it so that we do actually build that space to release whatever release is to us. And again, that's very personal. Could be a phone call with a friend, it could be going for a walk in nature, it could be whatever it is, whatever it needs to be. But accepting the vulnerability that we have is the key thing, really.
Yeah. There's a really good app a friend of mine created called Mood. It's like a little green. That's really unhelpful.
So I was thinking about an emotional journey, a journal that I've done before, but saying take it from a curiosity rather than another to-do list, or it becomes, oh, it's another thing I need to do, but it's a way of just tracking the rumbles. I quite like that before the the train or the something comes and it hits you.
Yeah, and even if you don't want to be in a big writing mode, the
Yeah.
mood app that was created by a friend of mine who was experiencing the real lows of depression all the way up to the highs of the highs, great Welshman. So it's just pure color code. So you sign up for it, and you just every day you just put a color. So there's a gradient, and you just go, is it red being, you know, probably all is bad, and green being great, but there's multiple different colors. So what you then do is you step back, and you can look at it from a week, a month, a year, and you suddenly see the different colors. So it's just, if those of you who are very visual and like that sort of thing, mood app.
Mood app.
Maybe that would be something to check out. Spiritual. Who had spiritual?
Margaret and Phil.
Yeah, that was us.
Yay. What
had a lovely chat, obviously. And Phil left with a beautiful thing, which was, let me think, where did I write it down? He said, spiritual rest is all about a sense of belonging. And so for both of us, it was finding that sense of belonging was where we landed. Is that fair, Phil? We had a lovely discussion though.
I love it. And I think that's, as humans, we want a sense, that's just an innateness, a sense of belonging. Everyone has a right to belong. Your first system that you belong into is family. And for some of you, that'll be super comfortable. Others, it might come with its own interesting dynamics. Then you create your own families and your friendship groups, and then your work groups. And so you'll have different groups that you belong into. And I think that sense of belonging is super, super important to notice, and to have a sense that you belong. You all belong here. So I call you team, I call you family in my head. So I hope you know that you always have a place at the table with SOF. So it's good to see you here. I'm going to keep moving on due to time. Creative. Who had creative? Susanna, I can see your hand going up.
I had it, but I'm not sure if I was in that room. Was I in that room?
I think that was myself, yourself,
yeah,
Susanna, and
we were
Evelyn.
in creative. We were in creative.
We were in creative, but we got sidetracked of creative and started to discuss. I was too busy moving my desk around because I've got anyway, done some dodgy to my leg. But we had a really rich discussion, Lucy, about around Susanna, because you just started a new business, or relatively a new business. We were looking into time, and we slipped into the Pomodoro technique of working in structure and really focus. And then we discussed really good. Evelyn, you were saying right at the end, and I really liked what you said. And you worked with Evelyn. You say about what you said at the very final bit before we got cut off.
So what I said was that 2-minute breaks are far more effective than taking a whole half an hour or 2-hour rest period. So I did this last week with 35 women, where I asked them to take a 2-minute pause and just to focus on one thing. So it could be something they were looking at, something they were hearing, something they could smell or taste or touch. And it was really, really interesting that they all did it. They didn't fight or resist. And the comments were, I could hear more clearly than I've ever heard before. I was so tempted to eat that biscuit before the 2-minute break, and I know that I would have eaten 3, and I decided after that break I didn't need anything.
Brilliant, thank you. Oh, that's lovely.
I'm going to steal that. Thank
you. 2-minute breaks. Well, that's what we do, a 2-minute pause at the start to allow you to arrive.
With creativity, though, I mean, I've spent my whole life working in the creative industries until now, and it's about your energy. For me, it's almost like this sort of uncontrollable thing where you get inspiration and it builds and it creates this sort of euphoric kind of experience. And I think it's learning. I don't want to dampen that because it's magical, but it's about being realistic about your energy and how much that takes from you, and how you can be sustainable with that sort of that tendency to to break the rules, to think outside the box, to, you know.
It's
so-
giving you, but it's that resting, being disciplined and giving yourself that time. Okay, final one, physical team. Who had physical? Kit, Suzanne.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting because we had the opposite of you in that we haven't moved enough with the physical, and that can create some tiredness and feeling that in a deficit. So we had a really good chat. We were actually incredibly similar in terms of just wanting to get up and move in the mornings, and we both had got out of the habit of that. So we had a discussion around actually getting some more movement in, and actually we've just linked up on LinkedIn to hold each other to account that we're going to do it 3 or 4 times next week.
Like it.
I don't know if you want to add anything, Suzanne?
No, all good, all good. You wrapped it up nicely. Thanks.
Oh, loving this. So those are the different types of rest. Now, we have literally flown through this. So further back up in the chat are the articles and the quiz. And I just encourage you, as you, in the next couple of weeks, to read those articles, thanks, Kat, to take the quiz, because I think just becoming consciously aware of the different types of rests means you can then become consciously intentional in doing something different. So that is one of just some thoughts. Now, at SOF, I've got an we've got some spaces that you can come and rest, and you don't have to use your brains. So we've got 2 gatherings coming up. So we've got one in London next Friday on the 14th. So some of you might be able to come to that. And I'm really excited to say we're going to do one in the Midlands on the 4th of August. Yes, Mr. Simsey, the Midlands is coming back in Leamington Spa. So some of you have been to those before when we were other times. So if you're able to come on the 4th of August, I haven't got a location yet because I just genuinely don't know how many of you are going to come. Yeah, we're going to meet potentially Leamington Spa, Warwick, middle pace, but it'd be meet at 9:30 for coffee, and then 10 o'clock start through to 3. So we're going to just test it, and then we'll make it a thing. But if you can come to either of those, there's a space for you to have some rest. The other thing that we've got at SOF on the 21st of July is intention setting. So again, I guess it's a rest in that you are giving yourself some space to reflect on your businesses. So I know some of you have been coming to those sessions and found them superbly helpful for that quarterly check-in on your business, of reflecting on what's happened in the last quarter and where you want to go in the next quarter. So that is happening on the 21st of July. So love to see you there. We're not having a pod in August intentionally, just some time out. Otherwise, I just think it'll be a bit hypocritical. So take that time. Also, we're going to come together we'll be back together in the pod in September. Susanna's beating me to it. So Susanna wrote to me yesterday and asked if she could share this retreat, and it's just timely because it's happening next week. So, and on the 28th. So if anyone wants to go on a 1-day retreat for themselves.
It's not what, it's a weekend.
Sorry, for the weekend. If you've got space and time, check it out. You are most welcome. Otherwise, team, thank you for being here today. It was wonderful. Can we just give a round of applause for Kat, who has a summer cold as well, so I really do appreciate her being here. Thanks, Kat. Have good summer breaks. I feel quite hypocritical saying that, having just said we might not be taking them. So have good summer breaks. I'm going to stay now for another 15 minutes at the kitchen sink. So if anyone wants to stay for the after party and have a chat, you are most welcome. Otherwise, this is the formal ending of the July SOF pod. Thank you for being here.